Shah here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm here today with another client interview for you guys. I'm super excited to have Vlad on with us today. And I wanted to get Vlad on here because he actually has a very interesting background, at least from the educational standpoint. It's not the path that he took is not something that we see super common, or at least here in the US anyway. And so regardless, he had a very successful outcome with his recruiting process. So I wanted to get him on here to talk to you guys and just share some of his experience and his advice, and hopefully some of you guys can benefit from it as well. So Vlad, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start things off, if you don't mind, can you maybe just give people some background on yourself and who you are and kind of what's your profile as a candidate, I guess?
Yeah, of course. That's a great start. So originally, I'm from Ukraine. I moved to the United States when I was 11. And so, back then, obviously, I didn't even know what I was going to do. And so moved to Nebraska, lived there for 11 years, and went to school for undergrad, small liberal arts school. And then was kind of stuck because I had experience in mortgage and then I had experience in wealth management, but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. But after wealth management internship, that kind of sparked my interest in investment banking. And at the same time, I was applying for graduate school because I was not sure whether to do a master's of finance or a master's of management. So then I got down to Duke University and I chose master's of management program, and I saw that it had a pretty good track of letting people go into banking. So decided to go with that route, and amazingly met a lot of good people, a lot of people that are also here trying to get into investment banking, and ended up with a great network. And that's kind of a little bit of my background. No, I also know 3 languages, but I always kind of not sure whether I was going to combine like languages and finance, but it turned out that languages is just a bonus. It's not like something that you're going to do your entire life.
Yeah.
So when I found passion for finance, it turned out to be great.
Got it. Okay. So first of all, very unique background, obviously, moving here from Ukraine and growing up in Nebraska, and then going to a small school there. Obviously, like you said, you graduated from college and then you went into mortgage banking, right? And then after that, you also, it looks like you did a summer internship in wealth management, right? At a small firm. And so at what point in the process did you kind of realize that banking is something you wanted to pursue? Was that before or after you joined the Master's in Management program at Duke?
So during my wealth management internship with D.A. Davidson, I really liked working with the team, but also our director was responsible for like Midwestern investment banking for that firm. And so kind of working with them, and there was another analyst that was working in our office. It was kind of nice to see what they were doing, and I was able to sit on client calls, and so I don't know, I was lucky enough to do that. And then I was like, being a swimmer, also was a big swimmer in college. So for me, I was trying to look for a job that would require me, I just don't want to work 40, 50 hours a week, because I feel like in school, like even this past year at Duke, I would put more hours into just studying or just like taking exams or preparing for them. Right. So it was just kind of like at that point, I was just like, I think investment banking is the right path. And so, kind of simultaneously, I was looking at, and it's also a COVID world. So I was looking at, those programs, and I found that I think the MMS program is the best, just because it offered like, like a very diversified variety of classes. So it's like business communication, strategy, like quantitative business decisions, analytics. So all of that. There's also a little bit of coding. So it's not just like a typical MSF program where it's just intensive finance coursework. So, but yeah, just kind of going back to your question, just kind of last summer, as I was doing my internship, I was applying for grad school. And so I was like, if I get in, and they were not going to give me a full-time offer in wealth management or be a financial advisor. So I was like, if I can just elevate my accounting and finance skills at this program, I think this is a great career path for me.
Okay. So we're in like summer 2021 now, as the time of this recording. So basically, back in the summer of 2020 was when you kind of decided, because that was when you were interning at this wealth management firm. That was when you decided you got exposure to banking, and you decided, okay, this is something that I want to pursue. Just so happens that you were already planning on, you didn't decide to apply for grad school because of banking, but you were already thinking about going anyway. And then so you just have to make a decision on what would be the best path. Because I'm sure you probably also consider MBA, like you said, you also consider MSF. Can you tell people a little bit about master management programs? Because like I said, at least here in the States, it's not as well known, I feel like, in terms of the type of degree, right? Most people, they think if I want to go to grad school, I'm going to go get an MBA. I'm sure there are pros and cons. What went into your decision when that ultimately, caused you to go with MMS as opposed to an MBA? Because you already explained why you chose over MSF, which is also a one-year program. Right? So I would say MSF and MMS seem at least more similar, but MBAs are typically two-year programs. And so, like, how did you think through that decision?
Yeah, definitely. So also, before I was applying, I was talking to a lot of admission officers, and they were really helpful. And I think what stood out to me by speaking with one of the Duke's admission ambassadors is basically this program that I just went through is 11 months, but it's, I take the same classes as the first year MBA students do take here at Fuqua. Duke Fuqua, that's the business school. And so I think that's what made it special, and definitely had a bigger advantage than, the other programs that I was looking at. And so, I mean, furthermore, it's just the Duke name, the Duke network. Once you join Team Fuqua, it's kind of forever. And honestly, I was just like, if I get in, I'm going to have so many network opportunities, and it's just going to play out, one way or another. I just have to put in work into networking, studying my technicals, and just like, getting ready for that investment banking recruiting. And so, but also it was kind of difficult because in the fall I was, going to apply for, all of these jobs because that's when banking recruiting is very hot. But yeah, it was definitely challenging. I think I just was a little bit too late into that process because I got interested in June. So.
Got it. Okay. So basically it sounds like, the upside was it's only a one-year program as opposed to a two-year program. It sounded like you prefer to not go back to school for that long. Because obviously first of all, I mean, you didn't say this, but I'm kind of reading between the lines, but for a lot of people, going back to school is cool, but like if you go back to school for too long, first of all, you're not working during that time, so you're not making money. Second of all, school is very expensive, right? And so there's no point in going back for longer than you need to. And second of all, it sounds like this program, you felt like you got the most bang for your buck because you're in the exact same classes as the Duke MBA students. And so you're still taking the same classes, learning from the same professors, meeting the same classmates, building the same network, essentially. You're just graduating a year earlier. And so it's kind of like, why not, right?
Exactly.
I guess the only downside you mentioned though is, and I don't know if people caught this, but since it's a one-year program, recruiting for a lot of the investment banks happens pretty much as soon as you step foot on campus. Is that right?
Yeah, and I guess the even bigger downside is I didn't come from like a target school. I was non-target Midwest Nebraska school, and so not even a finance major. I was an international business major, and but I did have like decent experience. I studied abroad. I was a captain of the swim team. Was in part of other groups, fraternity, and Colleges Against Cancer. So like I had a decent resume, but obviously it's just still not enough to get me, to getting me into banking. So wealth management was just kind of a start. And then I figured that, if I do perform well in this program, have good grades, learn a lot from the coursework that it was offering, and learn from great faculty here, I think, it's going to help me a lot helped me out a lot. And so, and also my roommate also was, really was looking for investment banking jobs kind of right before I met him. And so I was like, let's do this. So, and both of us, he just started last week in New York. So both of us got jobs and kind of, we got what we wanted.
Nice. So just to clarify for people though, if you come into an MMS program or a MSF program, like these one-year master's programs, since it's not a 2-year program, there's no summer break in between your first and second year. So when you come into these programs and you recruit, are you directly recruiting for a full-time offer? Because there's no opportunity to really do a summer internship after your first year because you'll be graduated? Or are you still able to recruit for the summer internship programs at a lot of these firms?
That's a great question. I'll walk through a little bit of my experience and kind of how I assess myself in terms of my recruiting process this year. So I started, recruiting very early. I had strong connections with the firm that I did my internship with, wealth management. And they also had a capital advisory group. So I was really wanted to get in there. That didn't work out. But then, I applied for several easy LinkedIn applies. I was studying my technicals and everything, but nothing was really working out. And so I reached out to a Duke Fuqua MBA alumni, but he has his own investment bank that he runs in New York. And so, I just reached out to him. It's like, hey, I know you guys sometimes do take MMS folks out there to do a winter internship for you guys. And so I reached out to him. He said, yeah, speak with 2 other analysts and see if we can offer you a spot. I had great conversations with all those people, and I worked at this company in New York during the winter, started kind of right after Thanksgiving, worked for 10 weeks until February. But I think what was best about it is it just looks good on your resume. It's direct experience in banking. I did pretty much everything that a typical analyst would do. So, but I thought that would really help me out with my education and just my, very diverse experience. So, but obviously I was looking for a summer analyst gigs, but a lot of those usually, like many of you guys know, probably they target, kids who are in undergrad still. So if you're a graduate student during a 1-year program, it's still pretty hard to get into that. So I did have one of the interviews for summer analyst gig here, close in Raleigh area. But they went with another person. So, and I wasn't really upset because I'm looking for full-time because, I'm already in my 5th year of school. So I was really looking to just get full-time, especially after that internship that I did in New York over the winter break.
Yeah, because the challenge is most of these summer internship programs, they hire you for the summer, but then if you do a good job, you don't start full-time until the following year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why usually they want you to do the summer internship in the last summer in school before you graduate. So it'll be summer before senior year. Or in this case, if you're doing a 1-year program, it would be doing the internship summer before you start the program. But obviously, you didn't know you wanted to do banking until that summer, so it was too late for that. Right? That was kind of what you were alluding to. And so I just want to make it really clear for people is there are pros and cons to the MBA versus a MSF or MMS. But if you choose to go the 1-year program now, I think the other benefit too is I'm not sure this is the case for MMSs, but for MSFs, for Masters in Finance programs, a lot of the Masters in Finance programs, they will let you enroll right out of undergrad without having any work experience, right? In this case, it wasn't an issue for you because you have work experience, but most top MBA programs will want you to have at least probably 2 years of work experience, if not more, before they would admit you, right? And so a lot of people, when they do a MSF and maybe even MMS, they're doing it as just a 5th year, it's almost like a 5th year extension to their undergrad. Again, that's not what you did, but that's what a lot of people are doing. So if you're doing it that way, then you could potentially do a summer internship between your senior year and your MSF or MMS. And then if that converts to a full-time offer, then you go back after your 1-year master's degree, right? But I guess in your case, since you had already been working and then you came to this 1-year program, then you just have to recruit directly for full-time. Is that a good rundown?
Yeah, pretty much, Sam. You hit it around on the nail.
Cool. And then so for full-time recruiting, then obviously most because most banks, um, at least like if we're talking about like the bulge bracket or elite boutique or middle market banks, the way they do their full-time recruiting is um, they give most of their offers to their summer interns from the previous summer. And if there's any offers left, which typically I would say like over 90% of the offers probably go to returning summer interns at the end of their summer internship, right? Then at that point, like if there's any spots left, they'll go out and try to fill those as soon as possible, right? And so meaning if you were graduating your MMS May of 2021, and that's when you will be able to start working, the time to recruit for those offers is the end of summer of 2020, right? And so obviously, just given the timing of when you decided to do investment banking, you probably didn't really get an opportunity to recruit for those, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Yeah, I did try to network kind of right away. Like I think, my LinkedIn profile was pretty weak. I think I was like under 200 connections in August 2020. So I was like, wow, like, I obviously haven't done any of the networking work. So that's kind of when I started reaching out to people and having kind of structuring my conversations, properly. At first it was very difficult because I also had no idea what to talk about. Just asking, basics questions. But then, the process kind of ramped up. I was becoming more experienced, just like with anything. You just become better and you speak more professionally after a few times. So, but yeah, like you said, usually, that's what banks do, like especially larger banks, they give out full-time offers usually to juniors who just completed the internship. Obviously that wasn't the case for me, but lots of kids I know from MMS program, sometimes they would actually, I think they did like a summer internship last summer, so like summer 2020, but they didn't get like full-time offers, so they went on to work at a bigger bank, like solid middle market banks like Truist, Stevens, like banks like that. So those who have experience have it better, but obviously it's not like it's not like a deal breaker, because my roommate, he didn't have banking experience. He had audit experience at at one of the big fours, and so that helped him turn into a full-time offer. And there were around 1,600 candidates that applied in the fall. So you just have to really know your story, know why banking. And I think for him, what worked out well is he started, I think, like in March or something. Sorry, I'm bringing out my roommate a lot because I think we're having pretty good comparisons in terms of this question. So yeah, so he started, I think, in like March or February, because he knew, he was like, I'm not staying here in audit, I'm gonna go to banking. And he got into Vandy's MSF and Duke's MMS, but he chose Duke because his dad went to Duke and he's close. So yeah, so I guess the point of it is, the earlier you start, the better, because the experience, it's like you're gonna have better conversations with people. You understand what investment banking is, and at the same time, you like understand what analysts do, at an investment bank. And
When you said there's 1,600 applicants in the fall, what are you referring to? 1,600 applicants for what?
I think they hired about 10 to 20 people. So it's like, it's a very
your roommate's firm, you mean?
Yes. So I don't know. Can I disclose the name of the firm, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so he's gonna work at Stevens, which is a middle market bank. It's a solid bank. I think they're in Little Rock. That's where they're headquartered, but they're in New York, Atlanta, everywhere. But yeah, as he said, on the super day, they told pretty much all the interviewees that we had about 1,600 applications in, and you are lucky 50. So that just tells you how competitive the investment banking process is. Right. And him, he just had a good story. He's a very smart guy. Yeah. And also went to non-target school. He went to Ole Miss. So it's kind of interesting, Ole Miss, Duke, and then still investment banking. So Ole Miss doesn't send too many kids to investment banking. So, yeah, and so he was still able to get a job, without banking experience or without like, being like, an excellent student or anything. He also had probably similar academic backgrounds I did, but he just knew his story well just because he started early, and I think that same applies to me and my recruiting process as well.
I mean, for people that are doing the math, they invited 50 people to the Super Day out of 1,600. That's about 3%, right? And then out of the 50 people, you said they ended up hiring what, 10 to 20?
10 to 20, I'd say, yeah.
So even with 20 people, that's 1.25%. So 1.25% of the applicant pool ended up getting the offer at Stevens. This is what I always say. I always tell people, and they're like, they find it to be unbelievable. But I always tell people, the top banks out there, like, and I'm not saying top as in like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan. Like I'm saying the top banks like bulge bracket, elite boutique, and even middle market banks like Stevens, on average only accept between 1 to 3% of their applicants. That's what we've seen consistently time and time and time again. Right. And so it's very, very competitive, like you said. But that's amazing, man. And so let's talk about, okay, so you start recruiting in the fall, you start networking, you start having these conversations, a little bit awkward in the beginning, you're learning technicals on your own. What resources were you using to learn your technicals, by the way, at the time?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, technicals was probably the most difficult aspect of, I think, like the whole interview process for me. And so I use materials, like Wall Street Oasis. That's, that 400 question guide, or mergers and acquisitions, whatever it's called. So, I mean, it was helpful at, just kind of get a real, like, but it's all like very hard level. So, so it was kind of hard. It's like, you like reading, like, what is like, how do you calculate a dilutive share amount? Like, okay, so, but you have to like remember that, but memorizing it so that's why I didn't really learn anything from it. So, I was still studying, but I was still like sounding like I'm just, memorizing. I'm saying that all during the interview. So it's like, it's not very pleasant for another person to hear that. Right. Like just regurgitating what you like memorized. Right. But also it's just not very effective either, because you could get all types of questions on the interview. So it's the ones that you studied may not even appear on it. So yeah, I didn't find it super helpful at all. And so, then I did my internship in the winter. So I just kind of slowed down on my everything just because I was working a lot. And so after the internship, I got back into technicals, but it was not like fresh at all. So, and then I just kind of, I was kind of hopeless because I was like, well, I had like 3 interviews. I had like 2 interviews with like 2 really good boutique banks in San Francisco, but I just got dinged because of my technicals on the second round. And so I was just getting frustrated. I almost like started giving up. I'm not going to lie to you, but then I ran across Wall Street Mastermind. So, and that resource definitely helped me out a lot more. So yeah, and I'm willing to go into that in further detail as well.
Got it. Okay, so that's really helpful background. Because we always tell people exactly what you just said too, but which is the guides. Obviously, everyone uses the Wall Street Oasis guides or the 400 questions guide. Those are pretty much like universal at this point, right? Like anyone that wants to get in banking, they have those guides. So that's not the issue, right? If you could just get in with those guys and everyone will already be in. But like you said, it's really, really hard to learn these concepts just by reading these guides and memorizing everything. Like, you probably didn't time yourself, but if you had to ballpark it, like how many hours would you say you spent studying these guides on your own?
I mean, there would be days where I just spend in the library writing them down, like in my notes, just because I was not like an accounting major, Sam. Like I wasn't a finance major in undergrad. So for me, like everything I'm reading, like I need to write it down so I can kind of learn and I guess and memorize it. But I'm not really learning anything, I'm just memorizing it. So yeah, so that was kind of the thing. But I would say typically, I'd study, I mean, outside of school, because I would also have school on top of it, the graduate program. And so I would probably say 20 hours a week, and that's like, you know, that's a decent amount. That's like
Yeah,
3 hours a day, I would say.
yeah.
Um,
And you did that
three
for
hours.
how many weeks?
Basically until I got that winter internship. Like, you know, like I said, I was really, you know, I thought I would have good chances with that firm that I interviewed in the, or sorry, with the firm that I did my internship last summer.
Yeah,
And so that didn't work out even through a referral. And then I was just like, okay, well, I need to get either an internship or I need to like learn my technicals, but I feel like that's what I've been doing. It hasn't been super effective. So I just, you know, then I got kind of lucky, I would say, but also like I did my work and reached out to some people, you know, who are Fuqua alums. And so that kind of helped me get that internship.
yeah.
And, you
But
know,
it sounds like you study for 20 hours a week using these guides for about what, 3 months maybe,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, pretty much.
12 or 13 weeks. That's, I mean, that's like 200, let's call it 250 hours or so of study. That's a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of time that just inefficient. It was just pretty inefficient for me, like the way that I probably set it
Right.
all up. But also it's just like, I guess it's just maybe, I don't know. I also would say that this program kind of helped me a lot to kind of master my accounting and finance skills too. So that kind of, you know, I took like financial accounting, I took managerial accounting, and never took those in undergrad. Like I took financial analysis, corporate finance, also didn't take those in undergrad.
The Duke program.
Yes, yes. So I guess in a way, like I was kind of trying to connect the dots from what I was studying and from what I was learning in class, but it was still kind of not enough. It was just I was like you said, I was putting 250 hours over 3 months span, but it wasn't, it wasn't getting me anywhere. And so,
I guess that's the other that's the other question. So, because I mean, so you were alluding to this, like, hey, you got really frustrated. You feel like you were wasting some of your interview opportunities. You had a really good boutique in San Francisco, and you got dinged because you couldn't answer technical questions. Um, like people probably have this question, is like, well, if you're taking accounting and corporate finance in school already, like, shouldn't that be enough? Or like, if you have that and you have these interview guides, when you came across Wall Street Mastermind, like, what made you want to work with Wall Street Mastermind? Because like, what's so different about what you're going to get out of Wall Street Mastermind versus what you were already getting out of Duke or even just studying on your own?
mhm.
Like that, I think a lot of people have trouble kind of understanding that. And so, can you kind of talk about how you thought about it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right when I kind of came across your program, I was honestly like, I'm really not sure. Like, I don't know if I won this. Like, I think I'm been doing fine. Like, I'm just going to continue to do my thing, network, and try to get referrals for, for the sum of opportunities. And so, but I was just getting kind of frustrated because I feel like I didn't really have like a solid, maybe mentor, or maybe more of like a mentor that would actually teach me well and teach me like intuitively how to go through technicals and kind of how to go about process. So, I mean, right when I had first kind of screening call for your program, like I was still like, it took me like a while to figure out if I really want to invest into this program.
Yeah.
So, but like based on, the research and how many people you have helped in the past to get into investment banking, I just kind of had to trust the process because I joined your program, Sam, like what, April, like literally like first day of April or last day of March.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
and I got
like end of March, basically.
pretty much, yeah. Because I remember I just got done with like my classes and I had like a spring break and I was like, well, I'm gonna study during spring break. And then like I studied and that was just also already like a lot more. Like I learned a lot more than like I did in the past. So, but yeah, I guess also just kind of point out as I was like, I'm going to invest, but it's going to be worth it just because I know I'm going to be making a lot more money like once I do get this opportunity. So, and looking back at it right now, I think I made a great choice. Like I said, and I think furthermore is I discovered what I really like when I discovered more about Wall Street Mastermind is the fact that you get out into like Slack channels and you get to like see people's questions, whether it be technical questions or it be recruiting. There's also a behavioral channel if I would have gotten that guide as well. So there's great opportunities to kind of learn from each other, and you do get this really large pool of network that, you know, is all just bankers, and so, or just want to be bankers, you know, in the future. So I think that's what's great about it. Is, you know, you don't just, you know, have you or Sam, but you also have other people that could help you out. And honestly, like, everyone's like, if there's someone asks like a really good question, it gets answered pretty quickly in the Slack channel, and I think that's really cool.
I think those are great points. I mean, first of all, you joined in late March, like we said, and you were graduating in what, May, right?
Yeah, May 24th, something like that. Yeah, like
And
May
so it was
20th.
like 2 months until graduation, basically. It was like, you know, you're down to like the last, you know, couple of months here where you can line up an offer and you didn't have anything yet, right? And
Yeah.
even then it was easy to have the thought that you have, which is, hey, well, maybe I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, right? Which a lot of people think that way. But I think that was a pivotal moment where you could have kept doing what you're doing, but chances are, I mean, again, we'll never know what happens in the alternate universe, but chances are, if nothing changes, then nothing's going to change, right? Like if you don't change your approach, you probably just continue to use the guys, you continue to get the same results. But you ultimately decided to make a change and you understood that there's an investment with potentially a really, really great ROI if you're able to get the job, which obviously ultimately you were able to get it. And so that's great. It worked out really, really well for you. But also coming into the program, it's not just like, oh, having someone like us teach you the technicals. Obviously, that's makes it a lot more easier to understand than you just reading some guide on your own. But like you said, it's being a part of the community, being a part of the network. A lot of times, seeing the questions that other people ask, which are questions you might not have thought of on your own, but now because you see other people ask, you're like, oh, like I wanna know the answer to that too. And then obviously we go in and answer the questions. And so that accelerates your learning as well, right? And then the network aspect of it is like, especially for someone like you, because like we talked about earlier, you decided you wanted to do banking so late. Like, you know, a lot of the banks are already finished recruiting. Like you didn't even have an opportunity with them, right? And who knows what will happen in the future? You might end up loving your job at the firm that you got the offer from, and you just stay there forever. That could definitely happen. If it does, it'd be great. But a lot of people in banking, they also move around down the road, or they go from one bank to another, and a lot of that comes through your network, right? Whether it's going to be your Duke network or now your Wall Street Mastermind network, but it's just like you're going to know a bunch of bankers in the future just from this program. And if there's ever like an amazing job opportunity or whatever, like you'll probably hear about it through this program, right? And so it's not even just about what you learn in here, it's also about the people that you now get to meet and the people who are now part of your network. And I always tell people like your net worth is your network, right? Like you're saying that, and I'm a huge believer in that. And so that's immensely valuable as well, right? But I guess like, what can you describe for people the difference between how you study for technicals after you came into Wall Street Mastermind versus like, so before you were spending like 250 hours on your own, right? Like how much time did it take you to go through all the technical stuff that you need to learn after you came into the program? Like doing it our way, I guess. You know, like roughly how long that took you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, like I said, I kind of started right, I'd say April, like literally like
Yeah.
since the start of April, I started going at it. I mean, it took me about, I mean, solid months to really get through it and just to really understand, just because, I mean, it's probably a little bit longer than maybe for some others, maybe a little shorter, who knows. But for me, I was also interviewing with other firms as well. You know, I was getting plenty of interviews, just because, you know, I was in my last term, I was getting ready to graduate soon, and full time for, you know, full time recruiting usually, like we said, happens in the fall, but like, you know, there's also openings, you know, in the spring that, you know, people try to fill people in. And so I was just applying for those opportunities, and, you know, probably had 5, 6, 7 maybe interviews with different firms. But then, finally was able to land one. But like I said, I was studying probably about, I love the videos that you created. So it's always just been, just one at a time and just taking notes, because I'm that type of person. I like to kind of learn by taking notes. And so, yeah, it took me about, say, I don't know, Sam, like I'd say like about a month, just on top of interviews. But I would say like, probably like 2 hours every day, because like I was also taught, before even enrolling in your program, I asked, well, okay, I'm going to get this program and I'm going to get the technical guide, Sam's going to help me out, walk step by step through like accounting and everything, modeling, but how much should I study? And so the person that, I was talking to, he said, I was in Sam's program. I found it helpful to study like 2-3 hours a day. And so I kind of also went with that route. And I think that, that was really what helped me out. And like that amount is not like going to make you tired, but it also stays fresh in your brain as well. So I'd say, 2-3 hours a day is just
7 days
enough.
a week?
Yeah, like it's, you also have a busy week. Like honestly, my last term was awful. We had a capstone, we had so much work to do. So, and interviews and then studying for technicals, but it all worked out at the end. So
I'm going to call it like, let's say, 2 hours a day for a month straight. Maybe sometimes you take a little bit of time off. It's probably about 50 hours of studying. Sound about right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but it's like definitely more effective, and definitely like through your kind of mentorship, kind of, it's like, hey, well, if you don't get this, if you don't understand what I'm telling you right now, go back, rewind a little bit and watch it again. So like, I would also have those moments where I'm like, oh wait, I just was like, my brain just froze. Like I have to go back and rewatch it again. So, I mean, but yeah, I'd say like 2-3 hours a day. So it's, that puts me at what, like 50 hours a week-ish,
Yeah.
I would say.
I
So it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's 50 hours in total versus 250 hours before reading the guides. That's already, you cut your efficiency. You increase your efficiency. You're doing it in 1/5 the amount of time, and also actually learning the concepts, because the way we teach you, like, we don't make you memorize anything. We're actually just explaining the concepts to you so that you understand it, so that it clicks, right? And we don't make you memorize the answers to questions. It's more like, if you understand the concepts, then it doesn't matter what questions they ask you, you're going to be able to apply the knowledge that you have and adapt on the spot, which is really what you're being asked to do in an interview anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and if you can just speak to that person during the interview at a hard level and just like really understand, what you learn, what I learned through the videos by watching you is just, help me out, be a better like person to explain all these concepts just by literally just watching your videos. So, and back then, like during my fall interviews and during my interviews, like in February, like for the San Francisco banks, I just sounded like I just read my 400-page guide or 400 question guide. So by watching you, though, it's a lot different. Like especially like on the financial statement side, like I think I improved so much. Like I understand how basic accounting works, like in a nutshell, just by watching your videos. So whereas in those guides, I wouldn't be able to really get that knowledge, get that intuitive knowledge, and learn the concepts.
I think the easiest way to explain to people in terms of the difference is probably just that, hey, like, we've all tried to learn new things before, right? But like, what is the most effective way to learn? We can all go to the bookstore and pick up a book, or go to the bookstore and buy a textbook and read it front to back on our own. Or we can like go to school, go to take a class from a professor who's a subject matter expert, and have the professor actually explain it to you, versus you reading a book on your own, right? Having a professor answer your questions if you have questions, and having them give you assignments of what to work on and what to practice, because they've already done this many, many times before. And 9 out of 10 times, you're going to learn much more effectively if you have the professor helping you versus you trying to teach yourself everything, right? But for whatever reason, most people these days are still trying to teach themselves everything, and it just doesn't work very well. And for something that's as important as your career, this is literally deciding, like, how you're going to make a living, how you're going to provide for your family, or if you have your own family in the future, like that's that's no joke. There's a lot on the line there, right? Like you wanna go about the preparation process in the best way possible to give yourself the best shot, right? Um, so I guess that all makes sense. So at the end of the day, like after going through all this, I mean, so you started the program beginning of April. When did you get your offer? It was like end of May or something.
Yeah, so literally I graduated it's like May 22nd or something like that. And I had my interviews exactly during my finals, like my last finals. So I had to reschedule my finals, take them earlier so I could do the interviews for this firm.
Yeah.
And actually I had the interviews with Performance Trust, the offer that I got from, and then KPMG. And I was kind of interviewing at the same time. So but yeah, no. So I had those interviews 22nd of May or something, and I got the offer on Thursday the following week. So yeah, but the process I think this whole process took about close to a month, I'd say. So it was like first call with the director of HR, and then they moved me to speak with like analyst associates, MDs. But yeah, the conversations went great, and so yeah, I kind of had to accept it because I was like, I am getting so tired with this process. Like you said, I started all the way in June. And it's kind of it worked out perfectly. I got the offer literally a week after I graduated. So it felt very surreal. I told that to everyone who I spoke with, after I got the offer. And so yeah, very happy.
Just in the nick of time. And it was a pretty good offer too that you were very happy with, right? Like
yeah, surprisingly, it was honestly a very good offer. Like I get basically I get the same base as like my friend, like my roommate in New York. So, to that extent, it worked out well because I will be working in Charlotte, and so lower income tax. So
right.
it's just not nicer
Not
that way.
even lower income tax, but way lower living expenses, rent, and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, So but yeah, but also like they pay 50% of their base for bonuses, which is still like above 6 figures, so it's fine. Like it's a good deal. Like, and I got relocation bonus to cover like my living expenses right now, and then when I get to Charlotte as well. So
basically, it sounds like the terms that you got, it's that you're getting paid street, right? Like it's what the average first year analyst on the street is getting paid, even at these like bulge bracket and middle market banks. I mean, maybe not the elite boutiques. So the elite boutique pay is pretty insane, but bulge bracket and I would say bulge bracket and middle market banks on average, from what I've seen, pay between. I mean, there's a range, but 120 to 130,000 dollars a year for a first year analyst, which is pretty standard, right? Sometimes you get these smaller banks, they'll pay below that, or sometimes you can pay, less than 6 figures, in which case it kind of sucks. But like in your case, it's not the case. You're getting paid street, which is awesome, and you're living in a much lower cost of living area, which means you're going to be able to save a lot more, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, like you said, that range, I am in that range. So, I would say I got pretty lucky with the offer, but also, I do have a master's degree on my list. So I think that's also a part of it where maybe they thought that, maybe we'll give this guy some more money.
You get lucky, dude. You earned it. So
no, I like to
feel humble.
yeah, feel humble, but yeah, of course. But I guess one more other thing is that this firm does most of their stuff. Like that's how it originated. It was mostly sales and trading firm, and then so it's been sales and trading for 20 years, and then like about 8 years ago they got a capital advisory group. And it's been booming. It's been growing. They're in Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, and so Charlotte and Atlanta Southeast region is booming and like getting a lot more deals. Like I spoke with an analyst like literally a couple days ago, and he said, "Yeah, I'm already on my drive here to Texas, like speaking with a client, doing a pitch." So, yeah, definitely a lot of involvement, lots of engagement, and you kind of get started right away. So like I actually start work tomorrow, so it's kind of crazy, but I'm definitely excited. I'm excited to kind of get the show on the road and Yeah, yeah. But like I said, I'm very happy with the offer and very happy with the team that I found. I'm glad that they liked me. I'm curious to see what's in store for me and the firm going down the road. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm glad we got to sneak this in right before you start work tomorrow, I guess. But I know it is getting late over there for you, and I want you to be able to get ready for work. So I only have one last question for you, which is, do you have like just one piece of advice that you want to give to our listeners? You know, maybe people who are just starting recruiting classes right now, or maybe they're in a similar boat that you were in not too long ago, decide they want to get into banking late, whatever, right? Like it was what's something that you wish someone had told you back when you first started that would have maybe saved you a lot of time and effort and would have made this process a lot smoother for you. Like, is there anything like that that you want to share with people?
yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess for one is I wish I kind of found this program a lot sooner. That's one. But generally speaking, start early. Like if you're a finance major or whatever, or if you have interest in finance, you don't even have to be a finance major, but if you have interest in banking, you always kind of have to start early. I mean, for undergrads, start making your networking connections early through LinkedIn, emails, try to exhaust all your contacts. And then second, I would say like really develop your story because, a firm's not going to hire you if they're not going to like you. So if they're, yeah. So, definitely understand like where you see yourself fitting within that firm. And, that's also comes with network, of course, and referrals. But also, I would say if you don't have banking experience, what worked out for me is actually getting like a little internship. And so, in the matter of 10 weeks, I kind of like had a better understanding of how banking works, what analysts do, like what I was doing and how I was able to get better at it. It's just easier to talk during the interview process.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess those three are important. Start early, build your network, get some experience if you can. And lastly, yeah, like I said, try to join Sam's program because for me, it worked out greatly during the technicals because that's what I was struggling in. Like I said, I wasn't really interested in behaviorals or networking as much just because I thought I kind of had that part, tackled. But yeah, technicals, it was just helped me out immensely. And, I'll be working in FIG banking, and that's, typically one of the most complex groups out there. So, so at the same time, Sam's guide helped me out a lot and to get into one of the most complex groups out there for banking, and very happy with it. And also, I just look forward to it because I do have mortgage banking experience working at a financial services firm. So I'm excited to get into this type of vertical and, but those are all three advices that I would give Sam. So, hopefully that helps.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And so guys, look, I think, I mean, a lot of takeaways here, but really, I think if you are late to the process, kind of like Vlad was, there's a lot of things you could do, right? You might consider getting a master's degree. There are different types of master's degrees, so you got to consider the pros and cons. And we're happy to walk you through that if you have questions about it too, because Vlad's not the only student we've worked with that has gone down this route, right? It's not super common, but we do have some experience with that. But also, like Vlad mentioned, like our program is highly customizable to each individual's needs, right? Like some people, they need a lot of help with their applications and with networking and just getting interviews in general. Vlad wasn't really having trouble getting interviews. He was getting interviews, he just wasn't passing them, right? Some people are struggling with the technical interviews. Some people are struggling with the behavioral interviews. Like some people are struggling with all of them. Some people need help with the whole thing. Like whatever your case might be, the beauty of our program is that, we work one-on-one with each individual, and what that allows us to do is really customize the program that fits your budget and fits your needs, right? Depending on what you need help with and how much help you need. And so if you guys are interested in getting that type of help and really just helping you become a lot more efficient in your preparation process and helping you really accelerate just how long it's going to take you to go from where you are right now to really getting to that end goal and that destination that you're trying to get to, then we can kind of be that bridge for you. Where we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to go, just a lot faster and a lot more effectively. So, if that's something that you want to explore further, I want to invite you to book a free strategy session with our team. You can do so by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street's abbreviated to ST, so the wallstmastermind.com/apply. And what we'll do on this call is we'll just get on, someone on our team will get on with you. We'll learn more about your situation. We'll understand like, what is your recruiting timeline? What are your goals? What challenges do you currently have? What do you need help with? And then we'll figure out if it makes sense for us to help you, because sometimes it's a good fit and sometimes it's not. But if we are a good fit, we can walk you through a customized game plan for your specific situation. If it's not a good fit, no worries. Then we'll just at least give you some advice or give you a couple pointers on, hey, these are some of the things you should pay attention to and work on. And you can go and try to do that on your own, right? So either way, the strategy session is free. There's no obligation whatsoever. So I encourage you to book that with us, and we look forward to talking to you guys. All right. So with that said, Vlad, I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you got work tomorrow, first day. It's a big day. Make sure you go in there and crush it, make a good first impression. But super excited for you, man. Happy that we were able to get you this outcome just in the nick of time, really. But everything worked out, and it sounds like a great offer. And so I look forward to seeing all the success that you have in the future. And I'm sure you'll still be around, and you're always a part of the program now that you've been through it. And so let us know if we can ever help you with anything else, man. Don't be a stranger.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate all your help and, just getting me to this point. Obviously, probably couldn't do it without your program, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope this call was also helpful for, future clients of yours. I also wasn't sure about the strategy session. I booked it and worked out great. So just understand where you're struggling and see if this, the right thing for you. But
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sam. And I'll keep you in update about my new job. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Please do, man. Please do. Looking forward to it. All right, guys, that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back with more of these for you guys in the future. All right. Talk soon. Bye.